Hey, everybody, welcome. Hello, can you hear me okay? You can, good. Um, Good work. You've chosen wisely on a Thursday night in Tucson once again, and I'm proud of you all for being here at a poetry reading, braving the cold. You had to get into cold cars and drive here, or maybe cold bicycle rides or cold streetcar rides, however you got here. Thanks for coming, and welcome to the Poetry Center. My name is Tyler. I work here as the director at the Poetry Center, and I want to just mention a couple quick things before I turn things over for this very special night where we're celebrating two readers in person, one who's going to visit us from afar, who's here in spirit in person, and we're celebrating the work of an amazing Tucson literary institution called terrain.org. So you know about terrain.org? Good. Okay. And I'm sure Simmons is going to tell us more about it. I'll have a couple of things to say about it, but that's one of our reasons for gathering tonight, is to celebrate the work of terrain.org over the past 25 years, which is a bright and shining legacy, and incredible to think of what it's done in a quarter century of time. And so worth celebrating. So we'll talk more about that. And to do that with poets is especially exciting for us. So many thanks to Allison for being here, and for Julie, and for Derek, who's trying to be here and waylaid by flights that have kept him away. So one thing I'll say very quickly, if you have not yet picked them up, there's 3 piles up here, 3 stacks of broadsides. Each of them are different, and each of them feature work from the 3 readers. So if you haven't been able to pick these up, please come do so after the reading, and they're delightful. It should not deter you from also buying books, which is conveniently just adjacent. So, and there's 2 book selling stations today. So there's our U of A bookstore stacks that are over there. They're happy to sell books to you. And then there's some books that the bookstore had some trouble getting that are also for sale here. And Mark, our excellent docent, will be happy to vend those to you. And there are ways, I think, to use cash or Venmo or other ways to buy those. So come buy some books after the reading. I do want to share, this is our first event in 2024. If you don't get one of these in the mail, we've got extras of these over on the table that's around the sort of half wall by the front door. This is our calendar for the spring season. There are many, many good things happening at the Poetry Center that we're so excited about. Readings galore, including next week, we have a reading from the poet Edgar Coons. He'll be reading on the 18th here at the Poetry Center that Thursday at 7 o'clock. And then on the 25th, we have a reading from the poet Brenda Hillman back here at Thursday night at the Poetry Center at 7 o'clock, and a reading from Robert Hass on Saturday the 27th. And this is a departure from our normal time, so that's going to be a 3 o'clock matinee reading here at the Poetry Center as well. And then again, that's at 3 o'clock. So the other 2 are Thursdays at 7. Hass's reading is on Saturday at 3. And you can find all those details on this delightful, beautifully designed calendar that looks good in your houses. You can fashion some garments out of them and just promote what is happening at the Poetry Center wherever you go. They're available and they're around the corner, and help yourselves. You'll also learn about the classes and workshops programs at the Poetry Center. There are lots of, I think there's 8 different classes happening here taught by many of the visiting writers who are coming through. Some of those have sold out, some of those still have spots. So if you're interested in thinking about poetry more, you can learn more about that in the calendar as well. I want to quickly point out that across the way in the Poetry Center, we're continuing the exhibit that we have up right now of another Tucson literary institution that features Corey Press and the work that Corey Press has done over the last 30 years. Another thing to applaud. These are among the many riches of this place, are these people that are doing the work of literary production and bringing voices into the world and finding ways to bring language to all of us. And so we're celebrating what Corey Press has been and what it's done and some of the things that it aims towards in the future. And so you can come visit while the Poetry Center's open and see that exhibit. It's delightful. Julie Johnson, who is one of our readers, is also the curator of these exhibits with the other library staff. And so it's one of the things we celebrate. Come visit and see that. So I mentioned terrain.org. We're celebrating 25 years of their work, which means if you track backwards that Terrain's 1997. So if we can put ourselves in a time machine and think all the way back to what was happening in 1997, I know that I at that time did not own a cell phone, delightfully. I would sometimes like to go back to that time. CD players were a luxury in cars. I had lots of cassettes. You might have had a lot of cassettes too. To think of what was happening then with a magazine that was publishing in digital spaces is really exciting to think what it has become now. And so I credit Simmons with this foresight to imagine what terrain.org could be and to put energy and love into it for so long to make it into what it has become. It's really, really exciting. So if we come back to the present, this means more than 3,000 pieces have been published across that 25-year history. It is the longest still publishing online journal and the longest continuously publishing online journal. So that has happened here, and it's happened because of this foresight, this interest, this energy in the intersection between the natural world and the built world, and where language sort of explores that intersection in the work that, and with other artists as well. The poet and former director of the Poetry Center, Allison Deming, sends her regards to everybody. She's away right now on a trip in Mexico, but she said, please say this when you're introducing. And Allison is a longtime board member, I think, for Terrain, so has cared also with Simmons about how to do this work and how to help celebrate what Terrain might make possible. And in Allison's words, she says, for its whole history, Terrain.org has published outstanding works for writing and visual art that celebrate the natural world, interrogate our human place in it, and explore how we inhabit our communities. So we celebrate that, Allison, and thank you for being here in spirit as well. I want to bring up Simmons now to tell you a little bit more about Terrain and introduce our readers. Simmons is the publisher, the editor-in-chief, delightful poet, Tucson literary citizen, a great friend of the Poetry Center. Please help me welcome up Simmons Buntin.
Thank you, Tyler. And I want to first start with a little terrain.org swag, because I don't know if you have a hat, Tyler.
I know.
And I want to make sure that you have one. I only brought 2 of the hats, but I want Paola to come on up here and get one of these as well. So there you go. Thank you. So you are required to wear those from now on forever. So I only took mine off for this evening, in fact. Tyler, really, thank you so much for having us, and thanks all of you for coming out. I want to thank the wonderful staff of the Poetry Center. I know that this is a remarkable place, right? And we're fortunate that we have it in our community. And it wasn't so long ago that I was a student at the University of Arizona in the MFA program, taking classes right up there. And I think that was about 2007, because I was in the MFA when we moved over into this building. That was really a sacred time for me personally to focus on literature in such a magnificent place. And it was a celebratory time too, because I think of the new building that we had, the amazing faculty who we worked with, some of whom we've lost recently, unfortunately, my fellow students who were all amazing, and not all of them annoying even, which was kind of nice. And the English department basketball league, in which I played every Friday afternoon until I pulled my hamstring anyway. So tonight, of course, is celebratory too. Not so much because you may see me jumping up and down following tonight's program because the hamstring won't let me, or jumping maybe to keep warm from this chilly weather, although we don't have the doors open, so we're okay. But because terrain.org, which is the world's first online literary journal of place, is celebrating 25 years of publishing, as Tyler said. So thank you. Yay. I feel like that is no small feat and worth celebrating, right? So here to help us celebrate with their words and their wisdom, and this evening their winter warmth, are, of course, Allison Adelle Hedge Coke and Derek Sheffield, who is the omnipotent Derek Sheffield here this evening. Unfortunately, for those who don't know, Derek and I were texting through the afternoon as his flight was delayed and delayed and delayed and then finally canceled. That was Alaska Airlines, and I probably don't need to say more than that. And Julie Swarstad Johnson, who's joining us as well, all terrain.org contributors. So I'm so excited that you all are reading here with us this evening. Thank you. I will introduce Julie and Derek and Allison in that order before each of their readings this evening. And then I will invite you to purchase their books, and we'll probably say that several more times, but that really helps out the poets, as you may know, which they will gladly sign for you after tonight's reading. But first, I will remind you to pick up one of these amazing broadsides if you don't have those yet. Those were created by Juniper Moon and Dwell Press, who does amazing work. So thank you, Juniper, in the ether sphere or wherever you are this evening. They really are something, I think. Okay, so again, thank you all for joining us this evening and for allowing me to share just a bit more now about terrain.org, especially for those of you who are new to our online magazine. Terrain was founded in 1997 and first published in 1998. I only have 5 or 6 more pages of this, so we'll be pretty quick. Originally, we were subtitled A Journal of the Built and Natural Environments, but now we consider ourselves more a journal of place and climate and justice. Terrain.org publishes both literary works, so poetry, fiction, nonfiction, as well as interviews and artwork and editorials and reviews, and the Unsprawl Sustainable Community case studies, which include a few case studies from right here in Tucson, such as Savano and Armory Park del Sol. And because we're online, we include interactive elements, so audio, video, image galleries, interactive maps, and more than that. You guys can come on in. There are some seats. Don't be shy. Terrain.org, and I think one of the sort of amazing things about Terrain.org is that we are free to access, and we're advertisement free, and always will be. We are run by an all-volunteer team of editors, which includes Derek, our poetry editor, and an international editorial board, which includes Allison here, as well as Allison Deming, who we talked about earlier. And these are also volunteers. And we succeed, I think, not just because of the quality of the work we publish, which Allison, Derek, and Julie will so ably demonstrate here in just a minute, but because of the community that we have created, the community which, as I look out in the audience now, I see many of you who know of and are a part of the community this evening, and I thank you for that. And now, tonight, you're all a part of the Terrain.org community, frankly, whether you want to be or not. So again, thank you for joining us. But let's now get to the real reason that we're here. I will introduce readers before each shares their outstanding work, and we'll begin with Julie. Julie Swarstad Johnson is the author of the poetry collection Pennsylvania Furnace and co-editor of the anthology Beyond Earth's Edge, The Poetry of Spaceflight. She has served as poet in residence at Lowell Observatory and at Gettysburg National Park, the latter of which led to the chapbook Orchard Light. She lives in Tucson and works as an archivist and librarian at the Poetry Center. Please join me in welcoming Julie up here.
Thank you all so much for being here. It's really a delight to look at you from this side of the podium and just to be here to celebrate Terrain. Thank you so much, Simmons, for that introduction and also just for the work, everyone involved with Terrain. It's really a remarkable magazine, and it's a delight to get to celebrate them with you. I'll start tonight with one poem from my first book, which is Pennsylvania Furnace, and it's the last poem in the book, titled Self-Portrait with Tucson. And it opens with a quote from a poem by Ophelia Zapata, who you can read here later this spring on April 6th, April 4th. And the quote is, "This is the way we begin and end things." And the final line of the poem references her as well. So this is Self-Portrait with Tucson. One day I saw the mountain of God descending across the valley. Sunlight alive in the body of snow, stepping through the veins of ponderosa and granite, cracking the air balanced between. Valley in my mouth when I mean city, when I should say brick, tile, wash with abandoned couch, ocean always just beyond sight, power lines crossing between that mountain and me. You should know I am a woman who believes in visions, uncurtained glass after sunset, a mirror and the cooled, vast ceilings it harbors, certainty of memory that wakes me in the salt light before daybreak. By the road, a man shapes circles that connect mouth and stomach, prophet's unwashed hair and empty bag. We are not coming to a mountain of fear, but a mountain of joy. A place sweet and yellow as San Javier watermelon. I did not know myself when I returned home from my long journey. Sometimes I see the Lord's mountain electric pink and close in the rear view, and I know there is still a little bit of night left in me. So for the rest of the reading tonight, I'm going to read you some newer work, some of which was published by Terrain.org. And this first one is titled acedia, and that's a word that is very old. It comes out of the monastery tradition of the medieval times and even older. But it's a word that sort of resurfaced during the pandemic and that refers to spiritual apathy or sloth, or just kind of this sense of not knowing where to direct your feelings. So this is acedia. And if you remember, too, there was that moment in 2021, if you're here in Tucson, where the saguaros blossomed, and it was this incredible, way more than anyone expected or as usual. So this is acedia. At the end of despair, ivory blossoms broke out, not just at the very tops as we expected, but frothing down every saguaro's arms. The only gold worth dying for filled those lifted cups for the long tongues of bats to savor in the darkness. Through those days, we tore at ourselves and each other, but still thought, for us, like us, when we saw the long drought over and the saguaro's joy running over. Through those nights, the white crowns shone, light sheeting off every bud. Insects skimming the air turned buoyant with photons. Every moment, waves pound us, heat and light and the earliest memories of the universe. We know the rivers sweep through the city, but not beyond. The shape of Sagittarius, but not the mystery behind it. The black hole at the center of all we know. The saguaros spread a feast before death. Flowers swelling into sugar-seeded flesh. Ripe and readied, they fly. They fall to ground, packed hard. The rains come. While we sleep, they hold the earth together, water shifting hour by hour to match the stars' cadenced wheeling. So in thinking, I do think a lot about land and place and how we're connected to where we live. This next one thinks about that in a really big sense. I think that can extend all the way out into the universe beyond us. So that's where we're going in this one. So this is Sermon on the Heavens. If you let it, the moon will tell you your smallness. Fragile creature on a tilted planet facing the open darkness, while the sun burns on beyond your sight. We have so long now denied that we think we are the center, the Copernican sun firmly anchored in the sky we swing through. But I write to you as one who knows her own heart. So I say, blessed is the wild distance of the night, the gauzy light of nebulas reaching us long after they're gone. Blessed are the asteroids, those fragments of the beginning which we did not create. Blessed the spacecraft that goes to bring a peace back to us, the origin of oceans inscribed in its dust. Blessed, too, those machines that go without thought of return, the glimpses they send back of worlds we thought we knew. Opalescent whirls of storms churn on Jupiter. Liquid pools deep beneath the south pole of Mars. Faintest sunlight kindles Pluto's peaks of ice bright as sacred flame. Blessed all the universe beyond us, and we who hunger and thirst to know it, shadowed on earth, calculating the trajectories of light. And so now I'll read to you poems, some of the poems that were published by Terrain. They come from a sequence that's titled Night Letters, and it's a set of 12 poems that were written between May 2020 or June 2020 and May 2021. As you all experienced, this was the hardest time. It was a really hard time for everybody, a really dark time in every possible way. And in that period, I had been working on a different project and just found that I couldn't do that project anymore. And I started writing these letter poems or epistolary poems. So they're poems that sound like letters. And this was kind of the way out for me, the way to get back into writing. And throughout those letters, I found that the night sky was this place of solace and a place to come back to and rest. So with these, I'm going to start with the two that were published by Terrain. And check the time. So this is October. These are the night letters, October 2020. Dear, nearly full moon lifting above mountains, sky deepening towards sunset, and that moon so suddenly huge that I stopped on my bike in the street, hungry for that realness, that body, that rock reflecting sunlight, mundane and powerful, translucent the way only the moon before sunset can be. I stopped on my way home, riding American streets lined with signs and flags touting our two countries. Hostilities enfolding in the air all around me, and I rode through it, anxious there will be no end to the ways we delude ourselves, speaking past one another, signals crossing silent in midair. I do it all the time, unwilling to disagree out loud, filled by the fury I let settle inside me. I have been looking at the moon all my life. Haven't you too? Eating its image, that light somewhere in our cells waxing towards fullness. Don't you want to name it? That feeling of seeing your life at a distance, lit by all it cannot hold. Waiting. November 2020. Dear, washed out haze of nights with Saturn and Jupiter blazing like faces, distant enough to be safe. How can they be other worlds? I ask myself all the time without ever asking to see my way out of darkness. I'll tell you plainly, a neighbor I've never seen walked out of his house with a shotgun and shot through teachers' cars parked at the school between us. His house kitty corner from mine. Cats and pigeons hunched together at the curb outside his house. All I knew of him. Some truce between them to sit like that, fed on whatever he unseen put out. I wasn't home that morning, my neighbors and the internet offering scraps of that hour. The masked woman walking her dog, his voice caustic across the open air, screaming, "Communists, I'm going to start the next civil war." He did not come for her as he said he would. No body in the line of fire, the bullet's path into metal and across the playground, emptied for months, teachers sheltering in a bathroom inside. Over the bullhorn, the police negotiator did her work, calm, coaxing him to walk out again. For weeks after the landlord hauled out garbage, a ghost turned out to the curb for everyone to see. The neighbor still in custody, remote as any light I cannot reach. I pray, then neglect my prayers for him, for the school, for neighbors I see never or daily. Today I walked out and saw Venus and Mercury, those steady lights against dawn, and I watched for them to fade, wondering. In this next poem, we'll take a little detour to Moab, Utah, and we'll be right near the Colorado River further up along its path. You'll also hear about the Great Conjunction, which kind of came up in the last poem, but where Jupiter and Saturn came right together. December 2020. Dear, just past full dark, we drive the canyon, the Colorado a living darkness on our right, Moab concealed from sight, and cliffs ahead with Jupiter and Saturn sparking above. Every day, growing more distant from one another, the thumb's breadth of cobalt, infinitesimal, compared to the journey between them. By an hour, I missed the Great Conjunction, now a week past, walking out into the half-lit street in Tucson when they had dropped behind the neighbors' mesquites. Nights of watching them draw closer, and I missed that double brightness washing dishes or stirring a pot fragrant with onions and spices. Nights have not been as cold as I think they should be, but I can't call to memory even one night a year past. How far then the clear desert cold of my childhood? The water I ran in the sink or poured over lentils came from the river we drive tonight, moonlight racing us on the water's surface. All my life this river has sustained me, these currents pulsing like veins in a wrist, tangled, delicate, ferocious. We drive the river highway, the moon a frenzied headlight at our backs, wild to pass us, a roar on the sandstone, on the riverbank, snow caught there, suspended in cold light, tasting it. January 2021. Dear, year of fire, year of snow, flakes loose as cotton balls drifting down into our desolation, choyas collapsing, mesquites going copper and brittle after months without rain, the rainy seasons dwindling. I've been reading about fidelity to the land. Today's consumer economy trains us to be discontented and ungrateful. Never did I think to water the agaves until I saw them nearly dead. They can't stand the heat and drought anymore. The people I love for their love of this land who have said they're leaving soon, moving north to places the rain hasn't yet abandoned. Just a month ago, one of them told me about a red-tailed hawk sailing like a dream above the Santa Cruz, doubled in the wastewater, doubled in the water flowing once again. Treated wastewater, true, but life doesn't care, accepting what we return to it. When I think back to that New Year's night, we walked out from your front porch in Penns Valley along the mill race in Pennsylvania, stars sharp as flung sand in that ridge-cradled sky. I think I could leave in a moment to return to it. But here I am on this street in Tucson, where my neighbors were born and remain to the third generation. And I'm furious about one neighbor's hoarded trash, another's yard swept lifeless and bare in glaring sunlight, oleanders standing guard for neighbors I never see. But we sit together all these nights, so much nearer than to anyone else, breathing in the half-darkness, dreaming. And this is the last one. This is May 2021. You'll hear about tardigrades in this poem, which are little tiny microscopic creatures if you don't know. And then you'll also hear about Oumuamua, which was the first confirmed interstellar object that passed through our solar system, so a visitor from far beyond. May 2021. Dear, with mountains massed between us and the city, stars against the dark bloomed like lichen embroidered across a curve of rock, celadon and burnt sienna waves, a world entire for tardigrades, their diminutive lives complete within it. I find that I love geology, evolution, the night sky because nothing about it is human. No failed intentions or desire for clear meaning, but the roll of eons. Not an active force, but a way of saying what accretes, glacial weight, pressing downhill without a mind. Have you ever given orders to the morning, God says from the whirlwind, and Job to that living distance can only say, I did not understand. A visitor slid across our solar system, or rather, we slid past it, and our instruments trained on the deep only just perceived it, leaving us to piece together what we overtook. Shard of an exoplanet, behemoth of nitrogen ice we clipped past and left behind. Once, I thought I was a mind within a body, sometimes overrun, others overrunning, the mind myself, able to reach out and know. But I broke like a planet coming apart, a mass unloosed to become a traveler through the night, spirit and flesh bound up always, sublimating in the light of stars come close, journeying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for those stellar and lunar and planetary amazing poems. I'm going to do something real quickly. I want to take a picture of you all for Derek, who, as you know, couldn't be here in person, but is right behind me. Hey, Derek. And let me just, I don't know if he can see you, but let's I'll send these to him. Smiles, everyone, smiles. Thank you, thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce the very large Derek Sheffield. As of 3 days, as of 3 days ago, actually, hold on, since Derek is not here in person, I have his books to showcase as I introduce him. As of 3 days ago, Derek Sheffield is the winner of a 2024 Pacific Northwest Booksellers Award for Cascadia Field Guide, Art, Ecology, Poetry, which I have right here, and which you can buy over there for $25. Congrats, brother. His other collections include Not for Luck, selected by Mark Doty for the Wheelbarrow Books Poetry Prize, and Through the Second Skin, which I have here. And then, but wait, there's more. Dear America, Letters of Hope, Habitat, Defiance, and Democracy, which I must say is a really amazing book. And I don't just say that because I'm one of the co-editors. I say that because you can buy it right over there. He teaches in Western Colorado University's low residency MFA program, edits poetry for some journal called terrain.org, and can often be found in the woods along the eastern slopes of the Cascadia Range near Leavenworth, Washington. Derek, thank you for being part of our celebration, whether you are in person or not.
Thank you, Simmons. I'm going to assume that you all can hear me. As he alluded, I can't really see you. All I can see is my own face on the screen and the background here, which you might be wondering about. It is true. What you have heard is true. That's a poem reference. I bet you, many of you can get to. What you have heard is true, despite Alaska Airlines' best efforts. I am with you, sort of, here tonight. Well, I'm here, and I think I was actually after white knuckling it over a mountain pass where it's 24 degrees. And there's a whiteout, and there are semi trucks flashing and piling and jackknifing here and there. I thought I was going to be home and be able to join you, but as it turns out, because of going a little more slowly, I have pulled off in this little town and am using this back room that. I don't know about you, but it gives me the Overlook Hotel vibes. You may be familiar with a movie called The Shining. And in fact, if you look at that photograph over there, you might be able to spot Jack Torrance, aka Jack Nicholson. And the favorite drink here is red rum. So I don't know if we're going to stay tonight or keep driving. I'm torn. Here's a poem. Darwin's eyes. He kept seeing himself, a swallow peeking from its nest, moss, the crawl of a wasp across his study window. And he kept having to drop everything and duck as certain callers appeared in the mirror he'd aimed at the front door. A beak he could understand. A talon was a hand holding his own. It was the eye with its vicious complexity that stabbed at him. Lightning bolts of doubt, a cyclopean stare, 10 years his origin, stewing in a stack of notes. And the eye, perhaps, why he went back, after all was said and begun, to the worms, spending his last years watching them as his fingers wriggled over piano keys, exploring up the scales and down, concerto and dirge. His first passion, his final, those tender needles with their dark impulse to feel all around them our earth. So one of my, this is a strange experience to be reading to your own face, in the Overlook Hotel bar room. There's got to be a poem in there somewhere someday. Listen, someday I'll get to Tucson. Do you know there's a poem? I have to say, I started thinking about ways to console myself about not being in Tucson right now, not hiking up the Sabino Canyon tomorrow, not going to the museum, not spending hours poring over the amazing archives of the Poetry Center that I've been hearing about for years from Simmons Buntin and Allison Hawthorne-Deming and others. And it put me in mind of, speaking of poetry, there's a great poem by Billy Collins called Consolation that you may be aware of. It's where he's not going anywhere for the summer. So he writes this poem that begins, "How agreeable it is to not be touring Italy this summer, wandering her cities and ascending her toward hill towns." So yeah, that came to mind. But speaking of Allison, listen, she is a special person, a special friend, and I want to dedicate this the reading of this poem to her tonight, and it's called Contextual Education. He wouldn't make us look like monkeys, says a student in the front row, because he made us in his image. She laughs and turns to check for smiles and nods. The professor stands by the whiteboard where he has written the word adaptation. He's thinking of all the lessons, like similes, that have appeared in black ink across this space and that have, like species, gone. He cannot help but see her in the church van on the field trip, pretending she doesn't know she's the pretty one, who doesn't know exactly what's happening inside the boy beside her when she tosses her pink streaked hair and blows a word across his ear. In the room's silence, she shows them what she means by turning her hands into big ears and wagging her head. They wonder what sort of experiment they are as their professor turns off the lights and clicks a chimp's face onto the screen. No one says a thing at the god looking back from those brown, sad eyes. This has one of those poems, those titles that spills right into the body of the poem. It's called A Moment Ago. A moment ago, you were following your steps across the driveway, head bent in the dusk toward one worry, then another, and the day's last chore in the plastic bag in your hand. It wasn't a sound or a touch, but something like the presence of a memory that made you stop and look up to find yourself, nearly surrounded by the dim outlines of 8 or 10 deer. And here you are, still, as if you've stepped through the charcoaled air into a scene on a cave wall, the thin legs, or someone long ago, the lifted, expectant head and tense breath tried to bring you to life. So Simmons mentioned Cascadia Field Guide, and just a few days ago, we got the amazing news that it was one of the winners of the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Award. It was 5 years of work between with my co-editors Liz Bradfield and C. Marie Furman, and it was such a special project to be part of. We had no idea that it was going to be as well received as it has been. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's been one of the best-selling books for the last 35 weeks. I mean, we're not used to that. We're poets, you know? I mean, we publish a book of poems and, you know, and then we have boxes of books of our own books, you know, at home. that's what happens in the poetry world. And so, but this book uses it's an anthology, and we have this amazing array of contributors, of poets and artists, and it's a very, very special kind of field guide. It's an artistic field guide that actually was the genesis for this book comes from the Sonoran Desert, actually, and it comes from Simmons Buntin being part of a literary field guide to the Sonoran Desert. I think that was about maybe 8 or 10 years ago when that book came out, and Simmons was one of the contributors. And ever since that happened, Simmons had really been encouraging me to do something like that for the Pacific Northwest. And then as we began working on it, we realized it needed to be Cascadia so that it could combine bioregional ways of thinking with everything else it's doing. And as I was saying, it uses poetry and visual art and science written in an accessible, engaging manner, a voice that you're not used to hearing science in, and cultural knowledge, traditional ecological knowledge, to in as many ways as possible, including how it's organized and the language that it uses to I'm paraphrasing Thomas Berry here, marvelous philosopher. You know, the book really reveals Cascadia as a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects. And it's so special. And as Simmons mentioned, what's this? Hold it. Okay, yes, I'm getting confirmation. The people at Mountaineers Press are saying that in honor of the 25th anniversary of terrain.org, there is a 20% discount on Cascadia Field Guide tonight. So I do know that there is a box in Tucson. I'm not in Tucson, but there is a box of those books. And honestly, it is so hard to get a hold of. I mean, 10,000 copies have found readers since March 1st when it was published. It's so hard to get a hold of that even the great and powerful University of Arizona bookstore was not able to get copies. That's why I had Mountaineers ship a box directly to Simmons. But here's a little pinch of a poem from that book to just share with you some of the magic that's in there. And it's a poem by Barbara Drake. Now, don't blink because you don't want to miss this poem. Okay, here it is. It's called The Bear. Seeing a black bear by the road, I shout, "It's a bear! It's a bear!" and cover my eyes, I think, because I like seeing it so much. Um, you know, isn't that beautiful? And then I want to just end tonight with one more poem from Dear America. Listen, it's one of the great, deep, and meaningful pleasures of my life to be part of Team Terrain and to be able to call someone like Simmons Buntin friend. And Dear America was the first very special project that I was involved in. And it's clear to me that Tyler understands how special Simmons and Terrain.org is, judging by what he said earlier and how he said it. But Simmons he's not just a visionary. I mean, there are other visionaries, out there, Elon Musk, but Simmons has this just beautiful humanity that is part of his vision, and not just in starting Terrain.org, but then in leading us. He and Allison Deming really led us into this project, the Letter to America project. Julie, it was great to hear you read those beautiful epistolary poems, and that was that was a lot of the nature of what's in this Dear America: letters of habitat, hope, defiance, and democracy. But in 2016, in November of 2016, Terrain.org evolved, and for 4 years collected some of the most compelling writing to works of resistance, works of resilience, and works of togethering. This is equipment. This book is equipment for living in the kind of culture that we have been living in since that time, and that we'll be living in again here as we approach this election. So one of the beautiful poems in this book, I just want to send out to all of you tonight. I was thinking about this poem not just as a poem that we all need as we head into the next presidential election, and as we live in this country together, but I was thinking about this poem when I was thinking about how much I was going to miss being there in person with you tonight. So this is called What You Something. It says, What You'd Want to Remember by Miriam Marty Clark. And let's not forget what we experienced in the pandemic. I say to myself, what you'd want to remember. Now, daylight spent, darkness falls before supper, votives flickering down the long table, and voices. Someone leaning in to hear, or back to laugh or consider. Someone reaching over to touch, sensitive, kind. Not out, but over, across the dark. It wasn't any one thing you'd want to remember later. A story, a gesture, a beautiful face, animated in the candlelight, the glasses refilled again and again, and how late you stayed talking into that autumn night. You'd need an old word for what it was. our commonweal. You'd need that when you thought back.
Thank you, Derek. I know you can't see me, but I'm looking up at you, and you're always been a little larger than life, and I mean that in the best way, but literally this evening. And this is what I was going to say if Derek was here. Thank you, Derek. It's about time we got you down to the Poetry Center to bring some of that Pacific Northwest poetry magic to the desert Southwest. But even though you're not here in person, I think it's clear that Derek shared that magic with us tonight. So thank you, brother, for that. Now it is my honor and pleasure to introduce a writer whose work and words and wisdom I have long admired, and that's Allison. Allison Adelle Hedge Coke's most recent honors include the Thomas Wolfe Prize. She was a finalist for the National Book Award for Poetry in 2022, the Emory Elliott Book Award, a Legacy Artist Fellowship from the California Arts Council, induction into the Texas Institute of Letters, the 2021 AWP George Garrett Award, and a Fulbright Scholarship. An American Book Award-winning author, 2016 Library of Congress Witter Bynner Fellow, or is it Binner? What's the? Okay, thank you. And 2015 Penn Southwest awardee, she is Distinguished Professor of Creative Writing at the University of California, Riverside. Her 8th authored book is Look at This Blue, and 10th edited book is Effigies 3. Allison, thank you for celebrating Trend.org with us this evening.
I want to thank, can you guys hear me? I want to thank Tyler and Paula for being so good to me and so inviting and welcoming here. Thank you so much. Thank you to Julie. You opened beautifully. It was so gorgeous. Everyone give her a hand. Beautiful, beautiful poetry. Thank you so much. And Derek, I think we should always Zoom him in now. For like every reading, we'll have a Derek moment. It was just beautiful. I sat with him at the Terrain reading in Seattle. And so this was a different experience with Derek. It was quite lovely. I hope he runs away from the shining place and finds a different place to spend the night. Thank you to Ari and to Sarah. I'm forgetting someone. Who's the other Poetry Center person that welcomed me? Melissa. Yes, thank you to all of you. And a very deep bit of gratitude to Simmons. I met Simmons because I was a fan of his work and what he was doing, and I have a lazy eye, and I was amazed by him. And I was running a retreat with the Sandhill Cranes in Nebraska and invited him to come and join us. And he brought his daughter and spent some time with us there. And afterward, I was quite honored when he published something of mine and later invited me on the board and now invited me to share this space for this wonderful anniversary for such a significant journal, online or not. I mean, it's just a terrific, fascinating instrument that brings us some of the best writing that happens in the world today and a sense of peace and place and justice. It's extremely important. So thank you to Simmons. Can you guys give a hand to Simmons as well? It's a pleasure. And I'm a little clumsy, so it takes me a minute to get ready. Thank you for your patience with me. And thank you all for being here in the bitter, bitter cold of Tucson, which is a surprising thing for me to say coming here. I told my granddaughter, I said, get our New York clothes. We're heading to Tucson. So she pulled out our puffies. Okay, I'm just going to read a bit. This book is dedicated to my eldest granddaughter, who is on the front row, and her name is Hazel. She's been traveling with me for the last couple of years and helping me out, and lives in my loft with her cats. She's great. Thank you. Thank you. She's such a big help. She's wonderful. The path we have taken has rotted. Ignite, stand up bright, conduct yourself like lightning. Tanya Tagak from Retribution. Look at this blue, Circe's blue butterfly from the sand dunes of San Francisco, the first known American butterfly to become extinct due to humans. First known. Redwood burls cut like blisters shaved from trunks, poached life source from root, killed giants and knobby growth removals, baseline, canopy height, bud tissue, unsprouted genetic code for clone of parent tree emergence. There was a barrel at my mouth, ready cocked. It was held there by my baby brother's bared grip. The lemon wedge moon pops over, consume shallows over sweet sound, low rustle in lodi water, chortle trill, night language from standing cranes, sandhills. They've been here all along, standing still in station pools, knee deep. Orion is hovering eastward, drawn and readied. Someone slinks past door jamb, each chokehold, felled, vaporizes cognizance. In a world fast shaking herself loose from diabolical torrent, rising throttled song above throttled breath, choked out between calligraphies, madness, clench, fury, unfurl, release, misery met in each pummeled break. It's not over. Sleep in despair, sleeping moth tongue, unrolled against your central incisors, human-throated, deep yearns for saxophone, trachea, windpipe. Sandhills chortle our only saving grace. The wetlands are marshaled, and there's nothing here on guardian watch. Riverside, reaching back for his slip skateboard, he was hit so hard he flew while braking. A crow above whose wings were sunning swooped at the same time the car careened to halt on Martin Luther King Road near Bordwell Park, east side, where the speed limit suddenly increases while approaching two close crosswalks leading from homes to Stratton Community Center, Bordwell, Emerson Elementary, east side, black and brown kids and elders. Anyone can see someone once worked this out. It's all going to burn, says the man accused of setting holy fire. First the puma and Santa Paula palm branch, then coyotes, fox, rabbit appear, birds overcome sky, plume, the entire yard a carpet of undulating fleas, so thick wrapping bread bags over our feet and ankles barely made it passable. Everything escaping heat from fire-stormed arson, 120,000 acres blanket-fired, Los Padres National Forest, and more. Choking like the child they found, still hung there. Sleep in the dream, a bettering world. Sleep in the dream, nightmare woken. What we carry howls boggling. Her cheek contorts in flame on fan yet fanning. She eclipses all asunder, all broken. Scarface vision and temporal melt. Somewhere on my left face, you can still see where it was sewn back on. On the right, the line across the eyelid where it was sewn back. On the abdomen, the lines where it was sewn back, somewhere on my right hand where it was sewn. All the here's and there were sewn. All the biopsies, labia, removals, explorations, assaults, sewn. What we carry weeps, wet-haired. Her cheek contorts when sprayed by guard, and for the first time she attempted, her neck ached. Meanwhile here, a third body is found in the Baldwin Hills fire, and more are missing. Arson again. Someone is out there. Look at this blue, the Palo Verdes blue, from the Palo Verdes Peninsula, one of the best claims to being the world's rarest butterfly. First thought extinct by development, rediscovered, her newly returned, lays eggs on deerweed. Notice the patterning on the underside of her wing. Remember along the way, the murdered sow bear, her cubs taken for claws. We're all just symptoms of something faster, massive, over us. They're killing us, weaponizing nature, sanctifying arms, consecrating each trigger-flexed hand. Dad, remember in his 80s, he was up on the trailer roof A sprayer in hand, fighting back the ignition. I'm not leaving until everyone leaves, he said. Or the time he battled out of being rolled, just smoothly turned his cane horizontal, asking the punks who should join him when he dies soon enough, until they scrambled across the Kmart parking lot. Trigger turned to my face, each right to bear bitter, each night scheme daybreak flash. There's no need to fictionalize this dude. He is what he is, what man made, what man. Slice labia squamous, first sometime mid-20s, the missing children, women taken somewhere. For me, it was a gully, a pond, a base, a van, a hall, a window. Broken branch and canopy, trees like fingers like stiff blade through my right hand. The bone handle separated the knuckles, like gales tearing muscle, bearing my keen weight. Or E. coli, some salad in a back aisle, invader just like this guy, too idiotic to merit note, past criminal code when pressing limits and cruelties as a method of stopping poems so they could not escape, no matter the musescape. Santa Ana's, floods, frost on Orange Grove. All that counted elsewise was any snowfall on Topa Topa. There was something lost on the Death Wish facade that called itself man. Ghost knocks pounded behind my head on the wall when he tried to stay there. Behind us was Limonadea, a town of a camp, now some suburbia development, but then all sorts of workers and growers since 1893. Rancho Sespi, Floria Cantos, La Lucha we would go, Santa Paula, Fillmore, Piru, Oxnard Strawberries, Satakoy Records, Ventura Gold Beaches, Hot Peppers shouldering Blood Alley, Ventura Freeway, 126, Oleander, Eucalyptus, Rhododendron. I came from the camps too, not these, but I know these children. Decades ago, when Olive Land's girl, 7 years old, wrote, "My eyes are the green of August." I still see her eyes, her August now. Condors replenish, and the phoenix half-grown chick at the Big Sur fire matures. Father's egg with redwood queen, whose initial mate is Dolan fire lost. All phoenix rise, blue-green egg until milky, milky way splits open up in some hollowed redwood on cave floor dust and cliff edge. Once my hand gleaned plume from a cliff edge, something called to me to reach in and feel what left it gone. My fingers raked, pulled from pit, what remnant left there, left there. Let love lead, let hand that pummeled rest, let scowl rest, let face relieve, let shoulders locked high, tight recede, let feet cracked, worn ease, let back, stiff, sore, bend open. Let your lungs swell breath like ocean. Let all of us, let all of us, let all of us be unbroken. Take heart. Earth hears every tremble touch and feels each foot. It listens now. Bring her justice, protection, and peace. I'm going to take a drink of water. Look at this blue. The mutant blue-eyed coyotes, the chance mutation, baby blues and 9 coyotes that suggest proliferation, silvery brown-backed with icy blue eyes, antenna ears, turning satellite-like, hearing voles, Santa Cruz, Sacramento, Point Reyes, their apex predators, Mosley wolves, mountain lions, are killed by humans, but here they're thriving and hunting, the blue-eyed chance mutation. Tenderloin mornings. Someone took a shot at me by 9 a.m. It's been 2 days since neighbors shot over me, lying over you, protecting you. And since Traveler's Aid allowed me to get here to take cover, and at least your father can't kill me now. This passing car, mad at the world, takes pot shots, has poor aim, or doesn't mean to score. Me, I'm just trying to get some juice, keep hydrated. My sister, she's still awake from her night shift, and she's watching you for the first time for 10 minutes while I cross hide, then Turk, and grab a box of juice, piece of bread, head back unscathed. Pass by the old man someone brought here, left on the street, No one knows his language. My sister says he'll accept a sandwich and juice, so I go back and grab him one. Today it's orange. Here's a heel. Someone from St. Vincent's gives him a cane. He looks maybe blind or cataracted. I wish we knew his name, wish we knew his home, to get him with his people. Morning seems so high above, the buildings block out any rise, and the whole thing seems to spin cardinal points opposite. So north is south, peninsula living, Ilamu, Ramaitash, Aloni, my sister learns at San Francisco State. She works late shift, prints newspapers, works for her bachelor's. Takes her about 11 years to complete, and me, I'm just scrambling to hydrate, acclimate. In the same year, Tom Petty wailed, I said, you don't have to live like a refugee. Score before care not cast, San Francisco labeled me indigent. They didn't offer me a home, just rent to my sister. In a few weeks, you will have red measles, not move for days, dehydrate, will nearly leave. For me, standing in line at St. Vincent's with you wrapped tightly in a sling alongside for food, medicine, and essentials we don't keep. The stream of morning over your face when you recover. This is before I could express myself. My chin was still positioned ready or chin down and ghosting into horizons you can't see here. My sister came in the 70s. Our mom and dad for their honeymoon after blind date meeting in the late 40s, last century. But you can still feel them here. Each time it's real. Before any time passes, we realize other families don't have these homing knowns. My sister's too embarrassed of me. Too backwoods, too field laborer, too sharecropping, too fisher, too farmer, too backwoods. She mocks my handiwork and asks if I plan to sell trinkets on the side of the road, maybe leather work I claim and show her some of mine. She walks a block ahead of me, mocking me to her city friends, like we walked aisles over from our mom, who was deep in delusion, cruising through the aisles in Piggly Wiggly, but never mocking her, not once. Where does mocking come from? Raven cry for my heart. Here, the streets are lined with fresh refugees, straggler homeless, cardboard boxmen, prostitutes, pimps, beautiful neighborhood people who teach me you can get a great meal for $2 on this block, how to eat with chopsticks, which store gives free bread when you don't have dough. Lots of skins pass through. They're not alone. How many times was I given up, left for dead, rejected, objectified, ejected? Does it matter still when I was jump-started or just awoken, when unexpected to return to the beauty of this world, abject misery, layered, still splendor despite beautiful, horrendous juxtapositioning throughout time? Look at this blue, the mission blue butterfly from coastal chaparral and grasslands, the Mission District of San Francisco, its Twin Peaks, Marin County, most of these upon San Bruno Mountain, the small, delicate, gossamer-winged, male iridescent blue lavender, female dark brown, blue base, fringed and long, white hair-like scales. The undersides are spotted. Wingspread is 1 to 1.5 inches wide. The caterpillars solely ingest native California lupine. They eat silver, summer, varicolor, lupine. The adults drink flower nectar, buckwheat, golden aster, wild hyacinth, endangered first by development. The public infrastructure development projects remain her significant threat. Mercy, mercy, war, mercy. They perforated his heart, lung, and liver, the Los Angeles County coroner said the bullets were shot twice. War, mercy. Look at this blue, the blue whale alongside Monterey, San Diego, Baja, the gentle giant, heaviest animal to ever live on Earth, twice Argentinosaurus. The ship strikes kill 11 per year. U.S. West Coast with ship increase. Population will be depleted. Noise, military testing, sonic battery, chemicals, plastic, krill, anchovy, tiny fish, crustaceans absorbing microplastics. A blue whale eats between 2 and 4 tons of krill per day. blue with a belly full of plastics. In the bus, on the way to retraining field workers, we left Santa Paula for Ventura daily, rhododendron, eucalyptus, liminaria, orange groves, peppers, flowers for Burpee Seed Company, red-winged hawks every mile of eucalyptus, 126 Ventura Highway, on watch like us for movement. X, Santa Paula marks the spot, North Star of Guanajuato, Mupu of Chumash. We escaped here, refugees. We closed our eyes and let finger conjure, map conjure home. This is where, from here, everything changes. Rewrite, reset, reverb, offer project for San Ynez kids at get-go, offer self, send for my folks to follow. Dad notes, know this, if there is snowfall on Topa Topa, everything's okay. Mom doesn't leave the pickup until the 4th day. Their last place, West Coast, was way prior to my lifetime. Restful now, restart, gratitude. Santa Paula Bank on Harvard, was it? Dad was deaf, he spoke out loud. Where did everyone go? While the tellers ducked and covered, while the robber displayed his weapon to me and gestured at my toddler, suggest I gather. I motioned toward my dad, gesturing his deafness, offered to gather him as well, with mercy, with peace, from the bank robber, who then escapes on a bicycle, about the time the tellers remember him from high school. Here in the shadows, leaves keep life close, fruit the taste of it, dusk following plant rows around the crates. We're comfort here. Home is nothing like a bed under stars when we need. Glean now in rain slickening, a royal willow branch as blue elderberry summons wind. Santa Ana's tango reason still leaves night and banged by owl wing. Here we're hammocked over oasis watering life. Rocks form mouths pre-dawn calling. Deep in night, sky rope tugged through visceral root. Harness reckoning, throttle to timbra, thrum, strum, pluck, gut, sleeve, kindle, fiddle, full belly, flourish poppies as quarter notes, spiral double helix, high above California fan palm, until stars are born, and your palms know where to go. What they imagine leads you here. Everything we muster moves us along like water mirrors itself and remembers where to flow, how to go there. In the dream you follow, in the dream we fly over all of this direness. We float, vaquitas. We move like smallest porpoises. We undulate in air, swimming arms tight against our sides. California spread below us, manzanitas gleaming in sun. The stars ahead in darkness await our time there. For now, it is the offering we make. Look at this blue, the Hidden Lake blue curls. From Hidden Lake, San Jacinto, Riverside County, on the shores of a single vernal pool, ephemeral, trampling by hikers and sightseekers in dangers. Each flower is a hairy calyx with pointed sepals and tubular corona. 50 flowers might fit on a penny, a member of the mint family. Delisting, the seeds are now stored in a seed bank, vulnerable. Will you take me as I am, California? Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I thought it was really important that you all feel that, right? And that's why I invited Allison to come up here. I mean, just amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to Julie and to Derek and to Allison. And thank you all for coming out this evening. Tyler, do you have some words, some other things to say? Well, thank you to the Poetry Center. Books, broadsides, spirit. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night.